What is your worst horrible boss story? 1. Jerry. Jerry refused to let me go to the emergency room when my already heavy vaginal bleeding suddenly got way worse. I went over his head, got permission to leave, and called my mom to meet me at the hospital. The ER nurse, who sees everything, told me he'd never seen so much blood. They decided I needed a couple of blood transfusions and to be admitted. My mom called Jerry to update him, and he told her it was just stress and that I needed to get back to work. At that point, I couldn't even lift my head, but according to him, I should somehow drag myself onto a bus across town and clock back in. Later, I had to be hospitalized again for AD&C. They found a large growth that needed a biopsy. Jerry kept insisting it couldn't be cancer because, in his words, I'd be tired and losing weight. I had lost 8 pounds in a week and was going straight to bed the second I got home. While I was still recovering from the procedure, Jerry called to say I was fired for taking too much time off. 5 days later, I was diagnosed with cancer. Fuck you, Jerry. Seriously. Fuck you. 2. I had a boss who refused to let me take an unplanned vacation to see my grandmother on her deathbed. I quit on the spot. What made it so bizarre was that up until then, she'd been chill and laid back. But when I asked for a weekend off to visit my dying grandma, she snapped and lectured me about needing to plan my vacation better. 3. I had a boss who absolutely despised me. Once I realized she wasn't qualified for the job and had already slept with 2 guys at the company, I decided she was a joke and not worth taking seriously. I barely paid attention to her. When she actually showed up at my building, which was rare, I mostly ignored her because I was busy and didn't have time for her nonsense. She wrote me up 3 times for being late. Once by 1 minute, once by 3 minutes, and once by 6 minutes. I lived an hour away, dealt with heavy traffic, and usually left home 2 hours early. When there was a wreck, everything locked up, freeway and side roads. Each time I called to let her know why I'd be late. She still wrote me up, obviously trying to build a case to fire me. So I started leaving the house even earlier, arriving way before my shift and leaving early. She could not stand that. Eventually, her own behavior got her fired. People still remember her and laugh about how awful she was. Those write-ups were later removed from my file when HR recognized she'd been treating multiple employees unfairly. 4. My first kitchen manager. She was so unhinged she'd make written lists of tiny so-called offenses that weren't perfect when she walked in. Her usual complaints went like this. A pen left on the counter. The microwave not reset to 0, even though I never touched it my whole shift as a cook. The nurses used it after hours. The radio not tuned to her preferred station. You get the idea. Petty, controlling garbage. When I found out she'd been fired right before Christmas, it was honestly music to my ears, even though losing income around the holidays sucked. The maintenance guy tipped me off that another location was hiring. I applied and got hired that same night. Walking away from her was the best part. 5. I worked in high-pressure sales. Once a week, the director brought in Monster energy drinks to energize everyone. She'd leave them in her office for the team. I actually liked the director. She was professional and decent. My direct manager, though, was a complete piece of shit. One week I decided not to drink an energy drink. I was tired of them. He came over and said, "You didn't get a Monster. You know, Wendy bought these for everyone?" I told him I knew. I just didn't want one. He leaned in and said, "Listen, go into that office and get one right now." I was so stunned I just did it, grabbed a can, went back to my desk, and left it there untouched. He came back and demanded to know why I wasn't drinking it. I said my body doesn't handle that much caffeine. He pulled me into his office and told me my lack of energy was distracting him and hurting my performance. He ended with, "If you keep this up, we may have to let you go." I told him, "That's unfortunate, but I'm not going to drink something that messes up my body." I eventually got fired. I took 2 weeks to chill on unemployment, then got a call from the same company offering me a different role. Not in sales, no interview, higher pay. I took it and loved it until I moved on to something better. As for my ex-boss, he was later fired for cocaine and meth use. He even had the audacity to send me a Facebook friend request. I ignored it, but heard from old coworkers he was asking people for money. 6. My first real job out of college was basically office manager and executive assistant at a branch office of a financial services firm. There were 6 advisors, 2 interns, and the branch manager, who wins the crown for worst boss ever. He never spoke to me in a normal tone. If it wasn't dripping sarcasm, it was condescension. Everything I did was wrong. If a FedEx envelope was sealed even a tiny bit crooked, I got yelled at for being messy. If it was perfectly straight, I got, "Did you use a fucking ruler? Can't you just close an envelope like a normal person?" Trying to have a simple conversation was impossible. If I agreed with him, he'd sneer, "That's how you really feel?" Yeah, right. If I asked a question, I'd get, "Figure it out yourself, you're so smart," with that drawn out smart right in my face. He regularly accused me of stealing and reminded me at least once a week that there were cameras all over and he'd catch me someday. Once, an intern and I were troubleshooting a column that wouldn't reconcile. He exploded at me, not the intern, and ordered me to come in over the weekend and fix it unpaid. I didn't know then that I was legally entitled to be paid for that time. I was in a bad living situation, and with an abusive upbringing, I honestly thought working for free as punishment was normal. It never stopped. He made me pick up his dry cleaning, and I had a full-blown panic attack thinking I'd ruined his ugly, weirdly colored suit, until I bumped into his girlfriend and carefully mentioned it. She confirmed the suit was supposed to look like that, and basically hinted he was just really picky and intense, sometimes too much. The final straw was right before Christmas. One of the advisors gave me a stack of Christmas cards and asked me to stamp and send them. I asked if Thomas, not his real name, had approved, and was told yes. Later, Thomas saw the envelopes on my desk and started screaming that I was stealing postage again. I explained those were for the advisor's clients, and I had been told they were approved. He stormed into his office, then called me in later claiming he'd spoken to the advisor, who supposedly denied giving me the cards. I told him to check the addresses. They were obviously clients of the advisor, not people I knew. He didn't care. He kept screaming and accusing me of theft while I tried not to completely break down, repeating that I hadn't stolen anything and that he could check his precious cameras. At that point, he picked up a metal trash bin and threw it at my head. I ducked and it hit the doorframe. Then he asked if I liked that and if I'd learned my lesson about backtalk. I said nothing, went back to my desk, finished my day, left my keys, and walked out. When I told my boyfriend, he yelled at me for quitting without another job lined up, even though we had savings and he had a good job. I found a new job within 2 weeks. Until we broke up, he never stopped calling me stupid and lazy for quitting first. I still have zero regrets about leaving that place.